Hey guys, welcome to ProRPA.com. This week we're going to talk about a few, strategies that we can use to optimize our robot a little bit more, right? So we're going to discuss these probably next week as well because there are quite a few, but I'm sure you can come up with like more and more strategies because this is like an evolving process, right? I can share some of my experiences here, some things that I have implemented in real time projects, but you get to know about these things when you're working on something, when you are trying to explore new things, and based on your experiences, you come up with with this stuff, right? So, first thing that I want to talk about, which I also discussed in this week's blog post, is to traverse through different fields of uh, of any running target application, external application. So imagine that we have this application, right? This CRM application, which is here, and we have any data in here. But if you just see, what I did was, let's say I was also like randomly typing data into it. I automatically started putting, data by using the tab key, right? Tab key is used to traverse to different fields within this application. So there are a lot of these sort of things, ad hoc things, which we do even when we are performing these things manually, but we involuntarily do them. We don't unconscious, like subconsciously in our mind, we know that this is an optimized, a faster process to go and click the tab key in our keyboard rather than going to each and every field via this mouse pointer, right? So if you know of these strategies, these are like very usual basic ones, and you can implement them in your project as well, in your robot as well, and that way it will be reliable. Guess why? Because imagine you have to select each and every field and perform operations of input operations into each and every field in here, right? Versus in this former case, you'll have to your robot will rely a lot on the selectors, right? Any selector not being able to identify any of those UI elements, and your process would be a failure, right? Versus if you are using a tab key, then you just have to find the first element, and you can simply traverse to the next ones using the tab key, and that way your reliability on the selectors is very very limited, right? So it's a very decent approach to go and perform your input operations or interaction with the UI elements. It provides a very fast and efficient process. Okay, so to accomplish this, what you can imagine is, let's say we use a type into activity, right? And excuse me, it is right here. And in the type into activity, we are indicating on screen as to on which field that we want to perform the operation. So I selected the first field itself, right? And also I want to mention that to test this approach, that you can use the tab keys, you must see how the and this is not just specific to this input operation, but for any operation, you should perform that operation manually as well to see how it's gonna work, so that you can implement the same process steps when you're in your robot as well, right? So let's say we use the first we provided any first name, webhub, right? To go to the next field, which is the last field, we simply hit tab and we are on the next field. So we hit the name as Jan, right? Then we selected the mail option, and if we go press tab again, it's directed to the address line 1, which we can put anything, right? Let's say something like this. And if we hit tab now, you just wait and see, the pointer actually, or the cursor, went to this field, which is sort of checking whether this data is valid or not, right? So you must know that if you actually want to put address line 2 after address line 1, you have to press tab twice. Once you're here, again you press tab and you are at the address line 2, right? So you have to understand the behavior of an external application and perform your process steps or your activity steps accordingly. That's how you should be able to build the robust bot that you're trying to think of, right? So, and similarly, we can do it for other fields as well. But let's say we want to put the data now, right? So we selected the first field, and the data we want to enter is Webhub, right? And next, you want to press tab. You just simply click on this plus button here, and scroll down, and you click this tab, and automatically this K tab within these brackets, the square and the circular brackets, they came up. That means after Webhub, after this is written, the tab operation will be performed. Now you can simply write the other field data, which is, let's say, Jan, and if you want to press tab twice, simply either you can copy it from here, or you can use the plus operation the same way as we did just now in from here. But because we'll be using a lot of tabs, so I just copied it. Tab, tab, and 1, 2, 3, 4 Madison Street. Again tab, tab, and address line 2 is apartment 24. Then another tab, and we put the city as anything, Syracuse. Then we can put the state as New York, right? And again hit the tab, and we put the zip code as 90505, just making stuff up, right? And if we run this program now, let's see how it works, right? We have to always test the program as well. So let's save, hit Webhub Gen, this, everything got written. So if you want to perform, like if the text is gonna be empty each time, then it works. But because it wasn't empty, so it appended text to it. How? Because we chose this empty field, and it emptied the first field based on the selector that we provided, right? So this has this very small limitation, but you can also use the simulate type and see if that works or not. Again, depends on the system behavior or the external application behavior, and it didn't work out because simulate type, you see, it actually wrote down these tabs as well. So this works very nice with the default input method that we discussed before. But if you're, because many a times these enterprise sophisticated applications that we have, they work by taking out the older data by themselves. So you can work accordingly and see if that does your job. But the only thing you have to remember is to check the system behavior beforehand, right? And there might be, instead of the tab, there might be other keys also, right? Like, I don't know, many a times what I do is, once I go tab, 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 and I have to click on a submit button, I go to the submit button, I simply press the space bar, and that usually presses the key. So you can use these sort of shortcuts to to make your process more reliable and efficient. But this is solely dependent on the fact that the system behavior should be corresponding to the operations that you're providing, right? Like, you should go to the submit button, like the way I was telling, press the space bar and see if you are actually able to submit data or some transaction or something like that or not. You have to make sure that those shortcuts work impeccably. Alright, so next what we're going to talk about is assigning a shortcut to open an application. Right? There are ways in which we can assign a shortcut to an application and then simply send a hotkey, right? Let's say we know what Control Alt Delete does, right? But any numeric key, Control Alt M, right? Something like this, that's gonna open the application. And to assign a shortcut to an application, we simply go and not in these ones, but like the sophisticated applications, we have the way to provide the shortcuts. Like we have TeamViewer here, right? And we have this shortcut key, which is none. That means there is no shortcut that has been assigned to it yet. So we can assign it like Control Alt and I don't know, M is what we gave, right? So something like this, I'm not gonna assign it right away. And if you do that, then you can just add the hotkey to the process flow or to the workflow diagram, and you should be all set to play around with the application because it will be launched, right? So that's a very easy, neat, and very efficient process. The only thing to remember in this case is that you don't want to mess up with the predefined defaults, like default shortcuts that our uh, operating system provides, like Control Alt Delete or Alt F4. So there might be more, right? So just remember to make them a little complicated, a little difficult to use, so that only that application can be accessed, and involuntarily we don't mess up with anything else. All right. Next, we also have other ways to open an application, right? So, like, what's the most common way that we follow to open the application? We simply go to the icon and double click it, right? The easiest, the most practiced, recommended way that we go through with, like, pretty much on a daily basis. So to open an application, right, when you double clicked it, what we can do is we can simply use the click operation, right, and indicate what we want to click upon, right, this particular element, and instead of the click type single, we make it to click double, and we are gonna launch the application. So this method is very good when you have like some visible elements which can help you identify and open the correct application. Then it's totally fine to go with that as well. And we also have to remember that these don't change. I mean, the location is okay, but the visibility of them don't get hindered upon, so that the click operation can be performed correctly. All right. The last method that we're going to talk about is to open an application and provide some parameters to it. So I'm going to take an example in this case. I'll open my computer C drive, which is right here, and let's open the Oracle. And we have a file called myexcel.xlsx, right? So if you open this, I have just created my sample Excel document something, right? And to open this file, what we can do is we can simply go to the run command option, right, which is provided in every window, and you can just go and see where your Excel file is, like Excel application is installed. Like for me, it's program files, MS Office, and Excel.exe. And with the space bar, you can you can provide the location of myexcel.exe or whatever Excel file you want to open, right? Then in that case, with just a single click or with just a few operations, you can open one or even multiple files. Let's say you have first file in here, just put a space bar and you provide the location of the second file, right? And that way you can open as many applications, or first it will open the instance of an application, and then on that instance our file will be running. So that's another way to launch applications with some documents or with some sample projects or anything that you may like. You may want to run over the instances, can be done with very minimal amount of activities and operations, right? So do follow these. They are really helpful, can actually save a lot of time and complexity in creating bots, because once you know these tips and tricks, they can play a huge role sometimes, and with complex projects, having lesser activities is a very sweet feeling. No doubt. Trust me. So try these out. If you have any other, we'll be discussing a few more in our next week's blog post. But if you have any shortcuts that you use to perform your daily operations, then please feel free to provide your comments for it, and we'll probably work on them together to see if we can automate those as well, right? Thanks a lot. We have also published Blue Prism course recently. The video course is available on Udemy and Skillshare. The links are provided in the description. And the ebooks are also available on Amazon. So please feel free to check them out. Both UiPath and Blue Prism data is good from our end, has been published successfully, has been receiving really good reviews from you people. So thanks and happy automating. Thank you very much. Goodbye.